Hey, y'all, welcome to week 10 of the Grounded in Postpartum and New Motherhood series. These 10 weeks, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself, and I'm hoping that even if you just watch one video, that you've learned something that will help you be well in your new motherhood journey. So, week 10, like I mentioned, mindful burnout prevention is the topic of this week. And the reason why I kept it to the end is that I feel like when I first started to create the curriculum for this group and this series, my focus was how do we help new moms be well in this first year postpartum, whether or not they have access to therapy. So that was kind of like my main motivation was like everybody and their mama literally should have the skills to be able to be well and take care of themselves. So they're not just running on empty all the time. So that's why we talked about things like self-care, self-compassion, asking for help, embracing this matrescence shift that comes with like all of the emotions in the world. So if you watch any of those, appreciate you. And if you haven't, appreciate you still. But you can always look back. There's also a workbook that accompanies this little video series that I created. You can access it in the online community, which is just $5 a month for now, and I'll make sure to link it in the descriptions. But anywho, back to mindful burnout prevention. So the skill that we talk about this week is mindful self-compassion practices. So I know that we already talked about self-compassion, but mindful self-compassion practice is a little bit different because it's anything that helps us first meet ourselves with the awareness and the mindfulness that we're feeling something, validating that if needed, being like, hey, that makes a lot of sense that you're feeling this way, kind of really welcoming it, and then taking some action to figure out what do you need to do? Do you need to protect yourself? Do you need to soothe yourself? Do you need to validate yourself? Do you need to comfort yourself, etc.? Kind of helping yourself meet whatever needs that you have in a self-compassionate but fierce way. So that's the practice. There are many different practices online on YouTube related to that. If you have the workbook, I'll link a website with some of my favorite self-compassion practices too. It's by Dr. Kristen Neff. But back to the burnout prevention. This week is really just helping you realize that, well, you might already know this, that parenting is stressful. And even though that sounds obvious, for some reason, I feel like I was really struggling with this for myself, because I wanted to be grateful and happy and just peaceful all the time. And then I think I'm learning that parenting is heavy. It's beautiful. It can be life-changing and it can be stressful. And that's okay. Being able to name it for what it is and be like, there's some parts of parenting that are stressful. I would still do this over anything else, but it's still stressful. So that's kind of the first part, just no shame, no guilt, parenting is stressful. And secondly, checking in with yourself and like, how am I managing the stress? Because burnout really is just when stress gets way too far, when the amount of stress that our body, our mind, our nervous system can carry exceeds a certain our capacity, then that's when we might start to feel like emotionally exhausted all the time, disconnected from our families, feeling like we're doing a horrible job. And I feel like burnout and depression can look similarly. And in a lot of ways, they are. I feel like in the way that I understand depression, it's kind of a point when your nervous system, mind, body, spirit, everything gets to a point of freeze of I can no longer handle everything that's on my plate. It's usually coupled with some negative thoughts and feelings about yourself, hence a self-compassion of like just recognizing and allowing yourself to be human, and also seeing how can I help meet my needs? Do I need to delegate? Do I need to take something off my plate? Do I need to start going to the gym to take care of my body? Do I need to start eating food, etc., etc.? So I hope that that was helpful for y'all. And like I mentioned, you can access all the workbook with all the links in the online community, nas.io/grounded in motherhood. And there's even like a little matching type game at the end of the workbook, which I'll share more about that in a different video. But yeah, I hope that you are out there taking care of yourself and remembering to fill your cup too. So take care. Bye.